High above our heads, beyond the gentle blue curve of Earth's sky, something ancient drifts silently through space. It's not a modern satellite or a piece of commercial space tech, it's an aging, forgotten relic from the height of the Cold War. This silent traveler is known as Cosmos 482, a hardened Soviet descent craft built to survive the deadliest environment in the solar system, Venus. Launched all the way back in 1972, it was once part of a daring mission to reach Earth's mysterious sister planet. But something went terribly wrong. Instead of launching toward Venus, the spacecraft got trapped in Earth's orbit, where it has remained for more than 50 years, circling our planet like a ghost from another era. Now, decades later, Cosmos 482 is suddenly back in the spotlight. This old piece of Soviet hardware is expected to come crashing down through Earth's atmosphere sometime this week. Its re-entry will be dramatic, fiery, and unpredictable. But more than that, it raises some deeply fascinating and unsettling questions. How did this relic stay in orbit for so long? Can it survive re-entry after half a century exposed to space? And what does its fall mean for the future of orbital debris? You're watching V101 Space and I'm Rob. If you're passionate about space history, technological mysteries, and the untold stories of human exploration, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got so much more coming your way. To understand how Cosmos 482 ended up in this strange, lingering limbo, we need to rewind the clock to 1972. The Cold War was in full swing, and the Soviet Union was locked in a fierce rivalry with the United States for control of the final frontier, space. The moon had already been claimed by Apollo 11 in 1969, so the Soviets turned their focus elsewhere, Venus. Shrouded in thick, toxic clouds and boasting temperatures that could melt lead, Venus was considered one of the most extreme and unwelcoming places in our solar system. But that only made it more enticing to Soviet scientists and engineers. They wanted to prove their technological superiority by reaching and studying this deadly planet. Cosmos 482 was part of that dream. Designed as a robust Venus lander, it was crafted to survive hellish atmospheric pressure, acid rain, and searing surface temperatures. The Soviets had already seen some success with Venus probes, so this mission carried high hopes. The lander itself was heavily armored, built with titanium walls, multiple layers of insulation, and pressure shields that could endure up to 300 times the force of gravity. It was a technological marvel of its time, engineered to drop through Venus clouds, land safely, and send back valuable scientific data. But none of that ever happened. The launch, which took place on March 31, 1972, initially went according to plan. The spacecraft made it into Earth orbit on top of a Molniya rocket, but when the time came for the final rocket stage to ignite, pushing Cosmos 482 out of orbit and toward Venus, it failed. The upper stage engine didn't fire correctly, leaving the probe stranded. Instead of heading off to another planet, Cosmos 482 remained stuck in Earth orbit, its mission over before it ever truly began. And because it never left orbit, the Soviets quickly renamed it under their generic Cosmos designation to obscure the failed mission from public attention. In the days that followed, the spacecraft began to break apart. Its various components slowly separated and gravity started doing its work. 2 large chunks fell back to Earth and made headlines in New Zealand of all places. In April 1972, 4 metallic spheres came crashing down on farmland near Ashburton, digging scorched craters in the ground. These were pressure vessels, hardened, durable, and eerily spherical. They were made from titanium and designed to withstand immense force. Understandably, people were baffled and a bit alarmed. What were they? Where did they come from? While the Soviet Union denied any involvement, experts quickly linked the fragments to the failed Cosmos 482 mission. The other 2 pieces, including the most important one, the descent module, remained in orbit. And that's where it stayed. Weighing about 495 kilograms, the descent craft was a rugged sphere of titanium and steel, capable of surviving conditions far harsher than those in Earth orbit. This thing was built to land on Venus after all. The atmosphere of Venus is about 90 times thicker than Earth's, and temperatures soar above 460 degrees Celsius. So you can imagine how overbuilt this thing must be to endure that. It had to resist heat, crushing pressure, chemical corrosion, and mechanical impact. As a result, it was more than strong enough to survive in space for decades, far longer than anyone anticipated. And so, Cosmos 482 has been silently orbiting our planet ever since. No signals, no activity, just a silent, slow-moving reminder of a forgotten mission. For over 50 years, it has circled the Earth like a ghost satellite. And like any object in low Earth orbit, it was subjected to tiny but persistent atmospheric drag. Over the years, this drag caused its orbit to decay, ever so slightly. And now, after decades of drifting, it's finally on a path back home, though not in the way its creators intended. Between May 8th and May 12th, Cosmos 482 is expected to re-enter Earth's atmosphere. Experts have narrowed the impact zone to a massive area stretching between 52 degrees north and 52 degrees south latitude. That covers nearly two-thirds of the globe, including North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Australia, and much of the world's oceans. Nearly half of the human population lives within that band. Yet despite this wide potential area, the odds of the probe actually hitting a populated area are low. Statistically, it's far more likely to land in the ocean or an uninhabited region. Still, the situation has sparked interest and concern. The fact that a 50-year-old space probe is making an uncontrolled return highlights a much bigger issue, one that scientists have been warning about for years: space debris. Cosmos 482 isn't just an isolated event. Right now, Earth's orbit is cluttered with over 1 million pieces of space junk larger than a centimeter. Thousands of these objects are large enough to survive re-entry and potentially cause damage if they hit the ground. Some of this debris comes from old satellites, some from rocket stages, and some from past accidents and collisions. Even tools lost by astronauts during spacewalks are still up there, circling Earth at insane speeds. To put it in perspective, an object in low Earth orbit can travel at over 28,000 kilometers per hour. At that speed, even a small bolt becomes a deadly projectile. If it collides with another object, it can cause catastrophic damage, leading to a chain reaction of destruction. This is the basis for a terrifying theory known as the Kessler syndrome. First proposed by NASA scientist Donald Kessler in 1978, this scenario imagines a future where one collision leads to a cloud of debris, which causes more collisions and so on. The result? A runaway cascade that fills Earth's orbit with so much junk that space becomes essentially unusable. No satellites, no space stations, no manned missions. Just a high-speed minefield of metal shards spinning around the planet, threatening everything we send up. And while that might sound like science fiction, we're already seeing the early signs. In recent years, we've seen satellites crash into each other. We've seen nations destroy their own satellites in missile tests, creating clouds of debris. And we've seen the rapid expansion of satellite megaconstellations like Starlink, which aim to put thousands of satellites into orbit for global internet coverage. While these projects offer real benefits, they also dramatically increase the risk of collisions and long-term orbital congestion. Cosmos 482 reminds us just how long these objects can stick around. This was a mission that failed more than half a century ago, and yet it's still making headlines today. And the scary part? There are many more just like it. Defunct satellites, abandoned rocket stages, and mystery objects that no one's tracking. We've only recently begun taking the problem of orbital debris seriously. But the clock is ticking. Fortunately, steps are being taken. Organizations like NASA, the European Space Agency, and private companies are working on solutions to clean up space. Concepts like space tugs, robotic arms, nets, and even ground-based lasers have been proposed to help move or deorbit dangerous debris. Some companies are exploring ways to make satellites more easily retrievable or ensure they burn up completely after their missions. There's even talk of international treaties and policies aimed at controlling the buildup of junk in orbit. But we're still in the early stages. And for now, objects like Cosmos 482 continue to serve as floating reminders of our past mistakes. As the probe makes its fiery descent, it also reminds us of the ambitions and limitations of human exploration. Cosmos 482 was never meant to return to Earth. It was built to fall through Venus' atmosphere and survive its wrath. But instead, it became a kind of time capsule, one that's now returning home half a century later with scars from space and a story to tell. It didn't collect data or land on another world. But in its own way, it's teaching us something just as important: that nothing we send into space disappears. Everything stays. Everything lingers. So over the next few days, if you're in that wide orange band on the map, between 52 degrees north and south, take a moment. Step outside, look up at the sky, and think about what's out there. Somewhere above, Cosmos 482 is still tumbling, still falling, on a long final descent back to Earth. And when it finally does re-enter the atmosphere, it'll bring with it not just fire and debris, but a powerful message about the challenges we face, the legacy we leave behind, and the future we must protect.